Let's go make this super easy 10-minute beginner-friendly casserole carrier. But first, always remember to share this so it will save to your profile and you can find it when you're looking for it again later. I started with 4 pieces of fabric, 13 by 17. I wrote my note over here because I will forget. All right, I have 2 pieces for the inside and 2 pieces for the outside. They're 13 inches wide by 17 inches long, we'll say. I have these 2 for the inside, these 2 for the outside. And I have 2 pieces of Insulbrite. Now, if you don't know what Insulbrite is, it's what you put in casserole carriers or anything to keep it warm. Don't use this in your bowl cozies or anything that's going to go in the microwave because it does have metal in it and it will give you quite the fireworks show. First thing I'm going to do is lay 1 piece of my fabric on top of the Insulbrite, and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to lay my other piece of fabric on the other side. So we have 1 piece of fabric face down, the Insulbrite, and our second piece of fabric face up. I'm going to do this to both pieces of Insulbrite, I-N-S-U-L-B-R-I-T-E, I think. Now after I do this, I'm going to quilt it. And you can quilt this any way you want to. I'm just going to do some diagonal lines across mine, but you could do a design or anything you want. You do want to give it some stitches so that it holds together, but a simple X would be perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. I'm just going to quilt mine with a straight stitch, and I'm going to go at a diagonal all the way across from side to side over and over and over again. And yes, I'm back stitching when I start and when I stop, because my grandma said so. Quilting simply means that you're attaching a top, a bottom, and a middle. Usually the middle is some kind of batting. In this case, it's this insulation. But you can quilt it any way you want. Some people love the super decorative quilting. Some people love the heavy stitches. Some people don't like that. You quilt it like you like it. That's the only rule. Now we're going to put some bias tape on one side. So this is my bias tape from Bessie Pearl Binding Company. It's double fold bias tape. It's exactly what it sounds like. It folds open and open again. So do you see that? It folds in and in again. You're going to open it all the way up and you're going to lay it flush with the side of your project, the top and the side. And you're going to sew right here on this seam all the way down. You're just sewing this with a straight stitch right in that crease, back stitching when you start and when you stop. Now I'm using this decorative bias tape. You absolutely can use regular bias tape. Use what you have. Now we've sewn our bias tape on there. We're just going to let it fold. It will fold over naturally to the other side. Yo, this is so cute. Okay, so Bessie Pearl Binding Company is not the sweet girl's name. It is, the company is named after her grandparents, Bessie and Pearl, which is the sweetest story ever. So now we're just going to let it fold over, and we're going to come back and sew it close to this side all the way down. Straight stitch, back stitching when you start and when you stop, because my grandma said so. We're sewing this like a top stitch, and a top stitch is just a straight stitch sewn a little closer to the edge. I like for mine to look like it's about to fall off of my project, but you only sew as close as you're comfortable. Look how pretty that is. Okay, so Bessie Pearl Binding Company has a whole bunch of different printed binding and bias tapes. And I love this bias tape that's printed because I love bias tape. It makes things so easy, but it's not pretty. Like, it's all solid colors and not cute. I feel like it yells at you, and this is adorable. Okay, so when we come down here, we've sewn this. Now we're going to close this up like this. And we're just going to put our bias tape around these 3 sides. So when we start, we're going to come down here and open our bias tape up, and we're going to fold it down so that we don't have a raw edge to begin with. So we're just going to fold it down like this before we start sewing, and we're going to sew all the way down. And when we get to the corner, we're just going to put our needle down, turn, sew, put our needle down, turn, sew until we get back to the beginning. You're sewing this on exactly the same way that you sewed the first piece on. Easy peasy, I promise. When I got back to where I started, I did the same thing. I folded my bias tape in so I won't have a raw edge. Now, I'm just going to go and fold it over, or actually let it naturally fold over and sew it down on the other side. So we're going to come here, fold this over, and this time we're gonna sew close to this edge all the way around. Y'all, this is the easiest casserole carrier, and one of my students has one that's similar to this, and she uses it all the time. Y'all always love a good casserole carrier, and I do too. I love something that's practical and useful, because I feel like we all have so much stuff that making something practical is just what makes sense. Look at what you just made. Super easy and very fast. Now, I'm at the shop, and I do not have a 9x13 casserole dish. What I do have is an 8.5 by 11 ream of paper. Look how perfect. It fits so good in there. Now, you could add some Velcro, you could add some snaps if you wanted to be able to close it some way, or not. You can just throw your casserole dish in there and carry it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm super excited to see the ones you make. My name is Tammy. I'm your favorite sewing teacher, and I would love for you to come sew with me.